Hey, welcome back to Chicks Talking Shift. Boy, what a conversation. We have been talking about obstacles, and I've had plenty as of late. We're talking about how to navigate through the obstacles many people are going through right now with these crazy energies.
Oh, Angel, it's amazing what you've been through. It has been a road fraught with obstacles, but there's always light at the end of the tunnel. So, whether you love Chicks Talking Shift and have been waiting for us to come out of hiatus for your next podcast, or you're curious and want to know what's been going on with Angel lately, and you want to hear some things that of how she's dealt with her issues that might make a difference in your life, you'll definitely want to eavesdrop in on this chat.
Enjoy the conversation.
Hi, welcome back to Chicks Talking Shift. I'm Alecia Rice.
And I'm Angel Carlton.
So, what does a bike, thieves, a broken closet, and following your calling have to do with each other? We're going to find out right now as Angel fills us in on what's been happening in the multiple lives that she's lived since heading out on the path of seeking and creating her destiny. So you're in a totally different environment.
I am in a different environment. Right now, I'm looking out this window at palm trees and water and exotic birds flying around. And I'm in this beautiful space. However, I mean, I knew this, what the surroundings would look like when I got here. What I wasn't anticipating was what I'm feeling. You know how you say the grass is always greener on the other side? Well, what I thought I would feel like versus the reality of what it feels like to be here. And that to me is fascinating. I'm just kind of observing myself as I go through the process, which is what we talk about all the time, is kind of stepping outside of yourself and watching yourself go through the motions and not being so attached to it. Trying, very difficult, but trying not to judge myself and saying, oh, you should be happier, or you should be this, or you should be that, or you said you would be doing this. And I'm like, nope, don't beat yourself up. Just kind of go with it.
In the meantime, even though your life's been shifting, we've still been doing a lot of other things behind the scenes. We launched our website,
Yes.
chickstalkingshift.com. So go visit that if you haven't been there yet. There's a free ebook waiting for you there that Angel wrote that's about navigating change. So you definitely want to go there and get that, because that'll help you out with what's going on in your life. And we're also now on Instagram. So that's very, very exciting. So let's get to it, Angel. I think that we have some listeners that are probably really curious as to what's been going on in your life. So how did the move go? Share with our listeners some of the things that have been going on with you.
Oh my gosh. We probably don't have time to get into all of that right now. Whew, tell you what, the move itself was smooth. I mean, the movers were great. I had a schedule. When does that ever happen? I had plenty of room in my storage unit for all my stuff. It was just a smooth, actually an enjoyable day where everybody was happy. It was a wonderful moving day, if you could imagine that. No stress. And once my stuff got into storage, I was like free. I had to bump my move up a week, and I helped a friend of mine move actually up to Oklahoma and to drive his car back for him. That week was total chaos. Then I miss my flight. I come back, and the stuff that I was supposed to pack and put in my car to drive to Florida, and I came back and it was completely ransacked. And my flight was gone. I was like, where's all my stuff? So that's a whole other story. There were missing items, some of which I got back. I still have close to $4,000 worth of missing stuff, jewelry and things. Uh, so that was heartbreaking, and what a violation that was.
Mm.
But regardless, I did my best to prepare for the trip. My cousin Laura flew down and drove with me, and we sang our way through 5 states. Basically, we had a great time. That was until the bike fell off the bike rack going 75 miles an hour on the highway. And I'm like, no, not my bike, not my little piece of joy in the world. It didn't cause like a major accident. Nobody got hurt. So could have been a lot worse.
Right.
But the car next to me was able to beep its horn to inform me that, hey, your bike is falling off the rack, in which it did. I have since gotten it repaired, and it is working just fine. Going on a bike ride every day, and it's been wonderful. So that was just a little mishap. But I tell you, it was just one thing after the next. Then I get to my new place where I'm staying here in Florida, and I unpack everything, get it organized. I put the last bag up on the shelf, and boom, the whole thing just collapsed. It's still not organized. I have stuff everywhere. So I don't feel quite settled yet, but
Yeah.
it's been a really interesting experience. And then I started having like massive abdominal pains and went to go get some antibiotics, and they ended up rushing me to the ER. You need to go get a CAT scan. It could be this. I'm like, what in the heck? So I spent, an entire day in the emergency room. I'm like, why is this all happening? I just want to get on with making a difference and being in that enlightened place of freedom that I so craved before I got here and that I imagined. And it's just been really difficult trudging through the mud, one thing after the next, to get to that place. And I have little pieces of it here and there. It's like, free as a bird. But then something else is going to happen. It's just been crazy. Like I'm afraid to have any joy. It's going to be stripped from me. So that's how the move went. I'm here. I'm excited to be here, but things are just balancing out at this point. It's been crazy journey so far.
That's a lot. That's a pretty rocky road. And the road before that was rocky. I mean, just trying to get to the point to make the move. It feels to me like there was some grace there, because who gets a moving day like that where everything fits and everything works the way that it should?
It was awesome. It was really interesting going through all my stuff and revisiting what's important to me. What do I want to keep moving forward?
Yeah.
What do I want to donate and have somebody else get joy from these things? And what do I want to sell? So it was like all these decisions that need to be made. It was a lot. It was pretty hectic, but it worked out.
Well, I mean, there's thousands of decisions that go into making a move like that, especially when you were releasing as much as you were. So that kind of brings me to these obstacles. You've had a lot of obstacles to navigate. It's fascinating to me. There was a lot of emotional stuff that you ran through there. Moves are emotional, whether it's something you're looking forward to, whether it's something that you're not. Between the move and all the obstacles, there are a lot of potentially difficult thoughts and feelings to move through as you're kind of watching this patterning and having this dust thrown up to make it a little bit more difficult for you to get to that next step. And so one of the things that's not lost on me, there were a couple of patterns in there that you mentioned. The closet. That's the second collapsed closet you've had in just a couple of months.
I still have releasing to do. I still have too much stuff. Apparently, What are you going to do? I've released so much stuff. I had 6 SUV seats down, fully loaded, 6 loads I took to the donation center.
Wow,
That's a lot of stuff.
that's a lot
And
of
where
stuff.
did I keep all that stuff? I had in closets, and I didn't need it all.
Yeah.
And I'm still releasing a lot of stuff. I got rid of so many clothes, but apparently not enough. And the thing is, I don't know how long I'm going to be on this journey. I don't know where I'm going to settle down next. It could be a year from now, could be 3 months from now, it could be 5 years from now. I don't know how much stuff I'm going to need. So that's what made the decisions really challenging. What do I take? Winter clothes, because I'll be in Chicago. How long will I be in Chicago? I don't know. Do I need my winter boots? It's making me realize how to prepare for the unknown, because we
Yes.
almost have to see every potential outcome and then mentally prepare for that. If anything, just visualizing as it as a possibility. So that's kind of the realize stage, which is where I am. I'm realizing everything is changing. Usually in the realize stage, I will coach people and encourage people to have some kind of vision of the outcome that they want, because Stephen Covey says, hey, begin with the end in mind. But the truth is, I have no clue. I know my world is virtual as far as my professional life. Where physically I'll be and where physically I'm going to be putting my stuff on this planet, I have no clue. I have no idea. So it's really hard to visualize, which is very uncomfortable. And I think that's what a lot of people are experiencing right now, is that uneasiness. And I almost feel empty, hollow, like a hollow chocolate Easter bunny, you know? I do. I feel
Chocolate.
yes. Dark chocolate. We're going to be specific. but, but I do. I feel empty and hollow. Like I don't even know how to feel about what's coming. It's a very similar feeling to depression. It's a similar vibration, but and I can label it depression, but it's not depression. It's just an emptiness. I don't know how else to describe it, Alecia. It's just not knowing. And part of my mind wants to go back to the way it was, because at least I knew, where I was, where my stuff was, what I was doing. But I'm choosing this. I'm choosing the unknown. So I'm like, you know what? You got to embrace these uncomfortable feelings. And this is, again, what transformation feels like. That's a little bit of the detaching and the experience that I've been going through the past few weeks. It's not been smooth sailing and easy breezy, happy. Oh, everything's wonderful. It's not been that as much as I want it to be, and we all want it to be.
Gosh, you put so much into the space. We've got the releasing and all the conscious releasing that you did as you were downsizing and you were preparing for your move. But then you had this big violation of having someone go into your apartment, ransack your stuff, take your stuff, which it's one thing just to have it be stuff, but there were things in there to you that were valuable monetarily, but even more valuable from an emotional perspective, like family heirlooms, things that have been passed to you. Sometimes it just, when it rains, it pours, right? I'm thinking about how I was already empathizing with the big circumstances that you were dealing with your move and with releasing. But then to be violated in that way, that just almost seems like too much. I almost imagine myself breaking down into a heap, because it's like, what? I've been doing all this stuff. I've been trying to do it with as much grace and elegance and ease and consciousness and good spiritness, while at the same time honoring the difficult emotions and the difficulties that are coming through it. But then this other thing comes, and it's almost overwhelming to think about, actually, because I just imagine myself being in a really emotional state and probably feeling quite vulnerable and fragile, making this big leap that I don't know where I'm going. And so then to have that piled on top of that, how did you navigate that with all the complex feelings and emotions and thoughts that ran through you? How'd you do that?
I feel like I have been bullied by the universe, I guess. I don't know by who, but just
Yeah.
one thing after the next. I'll pick myself up. I'm a really optimistic
Yes,
person
you are.
by nature. And so I always try to look at the bright side. The bike falling off. Well, it didn't hurt anybody. Okay, it's just a bike. You can replace it. But the violation, the betrayal of trust, that's what hurts the most. It was losing faith in humanity in a sense. Like, really? Why would somebody do this?
Yeah.
And then you go into this victim mode. Why me? Why not this again? Not this. Stop, and I was getting angry, and there was a roller coaster of emotions through one thing after the next in a very short period of time. And then trying to be joyous and be in the moment and be present and stay centered. It's not been easy to navigate, to answer your question. And I think the energies right now are not easy. I feel
No.
like what I'm experiencing, we're experiencing on a very large energetic scale. I feel like I've been thrown down to the ground. Yeah, you want to be this enlightened person, but not right now. You're not going to be, because it's one 3D thing after the next and one more physical thing that you have to deal with
Yeah.
before you can get to that higher place of elevated consciousness and all this that we talk about.
Well,
And
but look at it though, Angel. Look at that though. It's the 3D, it's the obstacles, it's these uncomfortable places that raise the perspective and raise the consciousness. So this is the playground, right? This is
yeah,
what creates that enlightenment, is that as we run across these obstacles and these difficult feelings and all of these things, that we learn how to work with them. I've got an Ask Alecia video coming up that talks about, I'll give counsel or guidance, and they're like, but that's so hard. As a seeker, you also know that you're going to try your best not to stop in the fact that it's hard, and you're going to keep moving forward and trying to use a higher perspective regardless of what's going on. One of the things that we talk about is the fact that, yeah, it can be hard, and you can even have tools to work with. The tools don't always work. And so sometimes you're going to find yourself in a situation of, okay, I've got these tools, I'm trying, and they don't work for whatever reason. Sometimes they're old tools, sometimes it's not time, sometimes there's a variety of different things that have in it. And so how to get through that space of now what, in that void, right? And so that was one of the things that you mentioned, is that from all these releases, you are feeling echoey inside, kind of hollow. You have released so much, it's almost like you don't know now what. The only compass you have is to follow your destiny and to follow the things that feel right to you. And so how to navigate that in the midst of having this echo chamber inside of, you're kind of in between times now. Yeah, you've arrived, but you're still in between times. It's like the bridge. In our last podcast, we talked about your bridge building vision. And so you have started now. You've released all that other stuff, and you're starting your bridge, but you're building the bridge while you're on it.
yes. Yeah.
Sometimes you got the right tools, sometimes you don't.
Yeah. I don't think I'm wearing the right shoes. Because I keep slipping. These heels are not working. The damn stilettos. Probably not appropriate for bridge building.
Probably.
You're right, though. I have been revisiting the tools that we've talked about many times, and some of it applies, but it just looks differently. Like, I know the void that I'm experiencing inside is from all the releasing that you're talking about that I've done recently. And it's so easy for me to want to go back to what I know, go get my old apartment back and just go back to what I had, because that was fine. I just want to go fill that void with what I know, like a security blanket. Then the next thought is, no, you can't go backwards.
Right.
You're going forward. You've already stepped out of that world onto this path, this world, the bridge, as we've talked about. So you're now in another world that I'm lost. I feel like I just watched the entire series of Outlander. I feel like Sassy.
So good. Good. Yeah, here you are jumping timelines.
I'm totally in a new place, new world, where I don't recognize this place. What has to happen next, as I'm rebounding and bouncing back and recovering from all of the betrayal and heartache that I've endured over the weeks here through this move, is that this space needs to be filled with, I get to choose. I get to create what gets to be with it. And it's new stuff. It's new circle of people. I have to find my tribe here in Florida. It's an empty space, which is uncomfortable. But at the same time, I realize I get to fill it up. I get to fill it up myself. And as I'm building the bridge, I'm going to meet other bridge builders. And it is learning new tools. Building a bridge while you're on it is not an easy thing. There's lack of stability. It feels like I'm on shaky ground, like the bridge is constantly flowing back and forth. I don't have a place to really call home, my home. And that's a very awkward thing. But at the same time, I'm choosing it. So I can't beat myself up and be victimized.
Well, both can be true. Both can be true at the same time, right? You can be both frustrated and joyful at the same time and grateful that you're in the new space. But yet, like you say, you feel unstable, you feel empty, your vision's a bit impaired because you can't really see. You don't know where you're going. You're following your feeling place, and you're following the synchronicities and the connections that end up happening in your life to be able to create this, along with just getting your bearings and being in a new space and figuring out where your tribe might hang out, and how you can make these connections, because it's difficult to make a move to another state where you don't really know anybody. And especially because in my experience, moving from California to West Virginia, the cultures are totally different. And so there are culture shifts that you don't even realize sometimes. Just knowing where things are, like the grocery store and the post office, and where's there a sweet little, coffee shop to go sit that's got a cool vibe. And that definitely makes people wobbly. And just, it feels very misty. It feels very like this misty void of who knows. But at the same time, I loved what you said. You said, I get to do this. I get to do that. It is an opportunity. The change has brought choice. These changes bring choices. And with each choice, you get yourself closer to solidifying where you're headed and what you're going to be doing when you get there. So for all the listeners that heard that you're in Florida, Angel needs her tribe, you guys. If you're in
Yes,
Florida,
reach
please
out
reach out.
on social
Absolutely.
media. And that's such a great message for anybody who's tuned in, Alicia, that we are all in a place where we get to choose what the unknown looks like,
Yes.
because our lives have all changed so drastically and we want so badly to keep it the way it was or go back to the way it was. And we can't go backwards. We're in a different place now. It's like I'm observing it as I'm going to this different place. I think temporarily been thrown back into the 3D world a little bit just to get a taste of it. We're going to be lifted back up into this other dimension where we can co-create it. I'm feeling like I'm being lifted out of this 3D muck. Once again, we keep going back, but going back to what you said, I chose this. I believe we all chose to be here. We have talked about this before. We've all chose to be on this planet right now to experience this massive transformation that humanity is undergoing. The shift in consciousness that's happening on this planet. We chose to be here for this. So what I'm experiencing on a very small, little tiny, my little blip on the map of the universe is what we're all going through in our own worlds, but we get to co-create it. So
Yeah.
whether
Yeah.
you just picked up and left your world behind like I did intentionally, or if you were in the same world that you've been in, you still have the power to co-create it, whatever outcome you want, and fill it up because it's been wiped clean. The slate's been cleaned.
Yes, that is so relevant, Angel. I hadn't really looked at it kind of on the micro and macro scale that you just kind of outlined that, because it's like you're on the micro level of what's going on the macro. Yours might be a little bit more severe in certain ways of not knowing where, why, how, and being in just the process of the creation, as opposed to somebody like myself whose life hasn't changed much, but yet externally and internally so much has changed. And there's so much that we don't know. And you're exactly right. I see a pattern of wanting to reach back for the normal, and just going back for the comfort of what it was, because you feel like that will calm your nervous system and make you feel okay. But it's kind of like taking a drink. It'll relieve it temporarily, but it doesn't change the fact that everything's changed. There's not much to reach back to. And really kind of the only way is forward, because we do, like you said, that's exactly right. We all have choice in whatever is happening in our life right now. We choose how we respond to it. We choose how we process it internally. We choose whether we're considering ourselves a victim, poor me, why is this happening? Blah, blah, blah. It's all a choice. That's where our power is, isn't it? That's what I hear. That's where your power is, of how you're choosing to move forward, even if your mind does flip into wanting to go back into this space of, oh, if I could just go back to my apartment and all of that, or if it does flip into a sense of why me in the victimization, you still have the choice of how you choose to move in and out of that, and how you choose to ultimately frame it, as well as the choice of whether you're going to keep stuck in a negative narrative that's going to depress your system and keep you down.
Because our brains are defaulted to the negative. Many people, we've been programmed by hearing no so many times over and over and over in our life that it's built these layers around us that we default to a negative perspective. There are very few people who default to a positive. And it's a retraining. You can retrain your brain to think that way, because I find myself going into the poor me. I'm like, wait a minute, you have all this freedom, and why are you going back to that place
Yeah.
of victimization And it's that habitual thinking. Those neurons are still firing. Just because you change your location doesn't mean the brain is going to, the brain still has to catch up.
Yeah,
It's like,
wherever you go, there you are.
right. Exactly. And
Yeah.
you've had a similar experience with just kind of being knocked back down into 3D.
Oh
You
my gosh,
admitted
Angel.
that
I mean, we've talked about yours, and yours is like
yeah.
huge. Not that it hasn't been internal as well, but a lot of yours has been with the doing, right? Of the releasing and the moving and that aspect. But simultaneously, for me, I've been on an emotional roller coaster. I have visited so many doubts and insecurities and not enoughs and questioning where I'm headed and what I'm doing, because I found Chicks Talk and Shift. We're shifting too. We're shifting as individuals. We're shifting as a partnership in a podcast. You went dark for a while. You just had to take care of business. So we weren't communicating. And it was interesting. I found myself during that time, all of a sudden insecurity started rising because I started wondering, where are we headed? What are we doing? We've been such a partnership through the pandemic that once you were further away and taking care of your life, and I was giving you that space, all of a sudden I felt a little bit more, well, and sometimes a lot more insecure about who I was, what I was doing, where I was headed. And that was difficult. Part of it was waiting to reconnect to you to see what changes you were going through and how your perspective had changed about how you were going to be in the space, how we were going to be in the space together, what we would be building, that sort of thing. And it's kind of a calling out process because there's so much out there that says, if you're going to do a podcast, then you have to or you have to be And there's so much noise that it's hard to get clarity in the midst of the noise and the shoulds. There's so much shoulding on yourself. Well, I should be doing this. I should be doing that. And really paying attention to the clutter, to the emotional and mental clutter, and being able to calm yourself and be long enough to start to work through those things that you're thinking and that you're feeling, and really kind of putting the puzzle pieces down and figuring out, what do I really need? What do I really want? I know they say this, but what feels right to me? Because our process might be different than what they say we should be doing. And so that's part of the uncertainty that we're heading through globally, is that we've been shit on a whole lot. Our whole life. It has been cultural conditioning and cultural programming. That's really what I've been working with a whole lot, is putting down the shoulds and really trying to be in the space of, but what feels right, without the fear of, if I don't, then this isn't going to work out. And really trying to find the courage to do and be it my own way and our own way, and create a custom program that feels right and good to us, and that hopefully has value to other people.
Yeah, at the very least, to let people know that they're not alone.
Yeah.
And it may not be the same experience of what we're experiencing, but people are having their own experience of being knocked down. It's like you're forced to look at certain aspects of your life right now that are not working, certain aspects of humanity that we don't like, that we'd like to recreate, certain aspects of your relationships that aren't working, certain aspects of your job, your career path that you don't want to be doing. I mean, we're being forced to look at aspects of our life that are not working right now,
Or
don't
feel right.
Don't feel right.
Don't
They
feel
may or may
right.
not be working, but it just doesn't feel right anymore. So those are the things that are shifting. Those are the things that are starting to shift. And anytime you go through a personal transformation, your relationships are going to shift. It's going to have a ripple effect onto your relationships for sure. But that's we'll get into that some other day. That's another
We
conversation.
always get into that. That's always a common thread. No, you're exactly right. Just
What
paying
I
attention to what feels right inside, what's working, what's not working, what doesn't feel right, and trying to find the courage to bring ourselves into alignment with what feels right for us, even though other people may not understand or agree, or even be inconvenienced because we don't want to do or be that thing anymore. That's related to boundary setting. That's when you realize that you've been showing up in a space in relationship to somebody else. It just doesn't feel right anymore. Maybe even some resentment has been building about that for a while. And just finally having the courage to say, you know what, I am not doing this anymore. And just having the courage to admit it to yourself first and foremost, and then finding a way, if there's any kind of negative or heavy energy in it or angry energy in it, bleeding some of that off, so that when you try to bring yourself back into alignment by telling other people what you need and how you need it, finding the courage to be able to speak that, especially without a bunch of energy in it to where it can't be received very easily from the other people. The requested change is difficult enough for people to deal with, let alone it coming with a whole bunch of energy that's been built up. So really trying to bleed that off and then setting that space. And then it's one thing to set the space and speak the needs. It's another thing to have to continually reinforce. I just did an Ask Alecia video on that boundaries change the dance steps, because what happens is you get blowback for a while from people that are wondering, did she really mean what she says? Because a lot of times, look, it's not unusual for me to say something and then not follow it up with action. And so it's like parenting a child, right? Discipline, you say, oh, well, if you do this, then I'm going to do this, but you don't usually do that. And the child knows that. It's like, well, I'm going to take a chance whether she really means that or not. And then challenging what that boundary is that you've set and what that request is, and showing up for yourself over and over again until they finally get the fact that, oh yeah, she's serious about it. And that's how you slowly bring your life into alignment with what feels right to you inside. Again, always easy to speak about it, but the process itself is more difficult. But it doesn't mean that it's not worth trying to walk through it, even though it's hard, because you get to the other side and it's a lot better for you. It really is.
It really is. And
Yeah.
I know that I'm not there yet, and it's a process, and I know it's coming,
Yeah.
and I believe that, and I sense it. What a great takeaway, though. I think one of the other takeaways, as simple as it is, I go back to gratitude. It's like my brain wants to doubt what I'm doing and the choice that I made, the fact that I actually did follow through on what I said I was going to do. And here I am. Now what?
Yeah.
But the mind is just wanting to make up stuff that to worry about. And I'm like, I don't have a worry in the world right now. What is your problem? Why are you making stuff up to worry about? And the only way for me to tame that is to say what I'm grateful for, what I do have. It could be as simple as I have a roof over my head. I have shelter. I have my health. My son is healthy. My family's healthy. Those are things you don't have to worry about, because the gratitude overrides all the worry about all the stuff. I don't have any worries. And I know that being grateful and feeling that energy around just appreciating certain things in my life will bring more to me.
Yeah.
It'll magnetize those things in my life. Whereas I keep worrying and keep thinking about all these shitty things that just happened to me, the betrayal and the, lack of trust and people lying. It's hurtful. I don't want to focus on that stuff.
Right.
I want to focus about the great people I have in my life and the awesome relationships I have and the people I'm about to meet. It's about to get interesting. So gratitude for me is another takeaway. Boundaries, everything that you've taught me about boundaries, but I've realized I have to set boundaries in my own mind with myself. That's the hardest thing. Because once I'm doing it with myself, then I could set the example for other people, and other people see that's who I am, you know?
Listen too well sometimes.
No, I know.
No, I totally see that. So, and so in the midst of that, in that uncomfortable, echoey space where you're unsure, you're uncertain, you're hollow, you don't know what's coming, you're stepping into the mist and just trying to create. You get this looping happens that sometimes comes in of victimization and what the hell am I doing and why me, and just all that, what feels like vulnerability and insecurity. We know change is on the horizon because it's uncomfortable. Bringing ourselves present even when the mind starts to loop. It's exactly what you just said about paying attention, being mindful of your mind. And it's like, oh, you're headed down that path again, observing neutrally, not judging yourself of, oh, there you go again. No, it's like, okay, you're headed down that path again. What do you want? No, that's not what I want. I don't want to be perseverating on negative things. I will acknowledge what's not right and what might need change and that sort of thing, which can be a tricky balance sometimes. But at the same time, just observing yourself neutrally, managing those thoughts, redirecting to no, I'm not going to sit in that victimization place. The thing that's because you're in this void place, and I guess that's part of what you didn't necessarily see coming, and I didn't see coming for you. It's what I call the obstacle behind the obstacle. You knew the looming obstacle was that you had to make this big move, and that you were making this leap, and that you just had to get past that obstacle. But it was such a large looming obstacle that what you didn't realize, there was another smaller boulder behind it. There's an obstacle behind the obstacle. So now you made the move. It's like, oh, I didn't see the void. I did not know that I would land in the greener grass, but there would be a void and I would be empty, and I would have difficulty finding my bearings while I'm treading water, trying to figure out what's next. Getting comfortable in that uncomfortable. Presence, like you just did. I'm here, I'm in paradise. I've got these exotic birds. I've got, palm trees. There's all these things that are totally right about my life. Yes, I'm unsure, but I'm okay now. I've got a roof over my head. See, that's such a practice. And when you do it, you do it over and over and over again, and it becomes normal.
Focus on the vision, which, as I said at the very beginning of this conversation, I don't have one, but I'm finding myself trying to tap into the vision I had prior to me moving here. I can't tap into what I thought it was going to be like, because I thought it was going to be something different than what it is, because of the obstacles that you're talking about. I didn't see this obstacle. I just saw the vision of utopia. That's why we make the choices we do. That's why we make the changes that we do. We think ending a certain relationship, we're going to be happier because there's somebody better out there. And that may or may not happen, but you're not exactly happier without the other relationship. It's an internal job. The vision that I hold of myself is the only vision I have control over. Who is it I want to become? What behaviors do I want to practice? What does this new reinvented version of myself look like? How does she behave? Does she walk around mopey, or does she smile all the time? Happy. I want to practice the happy, smiling behaviors. And so I'm practicing smiling. The other vision is, what does she look like? What's her posture like? Is she slouched over? No, she's got her shoulders back and she's walking tall with her chin up. Is she fit or out of shape and kind of looking the way I've been looking the past few years? She's getting in shape. I'm doing the behaviors to make the vision come alive. If that's all we do is focus on becoming a better version of ourselves, the external world will fall into place. I could so get caught up in all the drama. I don't want to put my energy there. I'd rather put it into self-care, self-love, really learning to love myself. I'm actually learning to get to know myself again because I feel like I'm a different person. That's one takeaway I would recommend for anybody who's going through a shift in their life and feel like they've been knocked down a little bit. And that is just practice one little behavior to become a better version of who you are, better expression of who you are.
Baby steps. Well,
Yeah.
and the interesting
Little.
thing is to me, Angel, when you ran down that list, everything you mentioned was your way of being. You didn't
Yes.
mention doing, Angel. You didn't mention all the kind of the visions of you're a speaker, you're going to be speaking and you're going to be doing events and that sort of thing. You didn't mention that doing. You mentioned the being, which it all starts in that place. Beautiful.
The opportunities will arise from what you're putting out in the world. If I want to put out the drama queen of always bitching about this just happened to me, and then guess what? I'm going to be getting more of. That's not what I want to attract.
Right.
I want to attract cool, positive, happy people who are passionate like myself, who want to make a difference in this world, raise the vibes, just work at becoming a better person, not a more miserable person. And we have that choice. That's the simple choice.
Well, and what we know is that as you just put one foot in front of the other, you make one choice after the other, that your path, that some of that mist will start to clear, some of that fog, and it'll become clearer as you continue to co-create and move through the energies of what you're moving through. It doesn't feel to me like you're going to be in a void for 2 years. It feels like those mists.
Everything is going so quickly right now. I
Exactly.
know this is just a phase.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
other. Like it's just a phase. It'll pass. It was like when Nick was in his terrible twos. I, I couldn't stand the kid.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's just a phase. It's okay. It's gonna pass. And then he turned into this sweet little 3-year-old that I just couldn't get enough of.
The opposite. No, Michaela, she didn't have terrible twos. She had terrible threes. And I'm like, they never told me about the terrible threes. I thought I skated through everything. It's like, oh, I escaped that one.
Yeah, and with the pace of change happening as fast as it is, I'm not going to be in this place very long. It's like prepare yourself for the next phase.
Well,
But
I got some advice for you because with like you say, as quick as the changes are coming, girlfriend, I hate to tell you, but you got to take the stilettos off if you're going to be building the bridge. And if you're going to run with the changes, you got to take the stilettos off. You know, you can, if you might put them in a little bag to carry them with it if you need them that bad, but you know, you got to be built for comfort so that you can do what you need to do.
hey, I'm in Florida. I need my flip-flops. I think that's my lifestyle now. I got to get used to that.
Oh my goodness gracious. What crazy stories. And I thank you for taking me on the journey with you. And I think it's definitely valuable for our listeners because there are going to be segments of things that you've shared and perspectives that people have experienced, other things they haven't, but have had similar experiences, that I hope that there's something that they pull from it that has value, either for where they are now or that somehow it's carried with them in the future if they find themselves in different circumstances, that it gives them maybe a little bit of reframing on how they might think about it. Again, the tools, they don't work 100% of the time. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It depends on the person, the circumstances, all of that. But you give it the best try that you can to be able to navigate it with as much grace and ease and elegance as you can. And hey, meanwhile, hold on when you're hitting those bumpy spots, because this too shall pass. Doesn't make it any easier to get through.
You're absolutely right. For those of you who are just smooth sailing right now, keep going and keep lifting others around you who are struggling and stumbling across those little obstacles along the path, because it's difficult for a lot of people right now. It really is. So if you're one of the fortunate ones who is not being affected by the chaos and the crazy energies right now, then you have the responsibility to help others and lift them up, put them on your back and carry them through this whole process. You've carried me. You've been holding space for me through this. I would call you and say, guess what just happened now? And you've really helped me through this process. So you've carried me. So thank you so much. I love you so much.
Aw,
And so glad we're back to business
yeah.
and creating together.
Well, and thank you for sharing your stories with me and with our listeners, because I hold space for you and I'm always here for you. But at the same time, I didn't have these experiences, and you sharing your experiences with me has taught me a lot about a whole lot of things that I couldn't know otherwise. So it's the whole student teacher, right? We're always student, we're always teacher. So there's always something that we can get.
All the knowledge that we've obtained in our entire lives, we've learned from somebody else
Yeah.
by either watching them. I've learned from other people's mistakes. I've learned from other people's experiences. I've learned from reading other people's wisdom that they've acquired and shared. That makes what I'm going through even more worthwhile, to know that even if it is just you, that somebody is benefiting from it. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess as we sign off here, thanks for tuning in, everybody. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, just keep your mind calm, your heart full of love, and just keep being the best version of yourself that you possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely. Head up, eyes forward, wings out. We got stuff to do.
And we'll see you on chickstalkingshift.com. Check us out and get your free ebook. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.